welcome to the 10th Revolution Group Tech Success Podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with industry-leading tech professionals. My name is Katherine Lord, and today I'm joined by Sandra Lewin. Warm welcome to you. Would you like to let our listeners know a little bit more about you, your career history to date?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's really lovely to be here. So my name is Sandra Lewin, as you said. I'm here as a founder of 100 Women in Insurance podcast and a community. I actually still work in the insurance market. I've been in the insurance market for over 15 years. Started as a broker and then moved on into more market development operations. And currently I do consulting as well on the operating models. However, my passion and the role that I'm showing up here in is as I said, the founder of the podcast and the community.
Amazing. So I'm excited to hear more about this podcast, especially as we've got International Women's Day coming up. So you've obviously been hosting the podcast and building the community across insurance. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So the podcast kind of came from an idea of I really wanted to do something to give back. It's as simple as. And what happened is I thought, well, actually, I kept on hearing that, people tend to go on one path in their career, or I kept on hearing there are not enough women in the insurance industry. And I thought, okay, well, if we can create a podcast where I share stories of how women have built their careers, showcase that actually there isn't a linear way to build your careers. There's so many ways to create the success on your own. And as well, showcase that there are many voices in the industry, then hopefully, one, we can have a better succession in building communities and showcasing the female talent, but also to attract and retain talent as well in the industry. So the reason why 100 came about is the truth is I had this great vision and an idea, and then I got cold feet. And somebody who knows me very well and knows that I like planning and sort of deadlines and project management, they were like, well, put a number on it. And at least you know that, when you're done, when you reach that number, you can stop. 100 sounded like a well-rounded fun number. What I didn't realize until I started is that 100 means minimum of 2 years worth of content if you release on weekly basis, or 4 years worth of content if you release on a bi-weekly basis. So I was like, well, that's a big commitment than I thought, but we were halfway through and I was very happy. And I'm happy to say that I'm now approaching the 100th episode, which is just an incredible achievement.
And has it been within 2 years, like the plan?
It's been 2.5 nearly. So I've launched 2 years ago in September. So I'll hit the 100th episode around beginning of April. So yes, it would have taken me 2.5 because I did take some breaks in between. So yes.
Yeah. I'm very impressed that you pushed through with it. And it's always good to have that target, isn't it, as well? So
absolutely.
So tell me a little bit more around the kind of key themes from these kind of 100 interviews with sort of women in insurance. What sort of your top three? What are the top three themes that you've heard really in the last 2.5 years?
Yeah, I think so. It's very interesting because, I interview women who are right at the beginning of their career, in the middle, right towards the end, senior, getting started in every position possible as well, across the industry. And I've kind of bring it back to a number of themes is probably the right way of saying. And I mean by those themes is what made those women reflect to see their careers and their journey as successful. The first one was ability to have difficult conversation. And I know it sounds very obvious, but I was speaking actually recently at an event. There was about 60 women in the room. And I said, okay, how many of you feel comfortable having difficult conversation? And out of 60, 2 of them put their hand up, because the truth is many of us don't feel comfortable. But one of the things that has come across very clearly from a number of my guests is that ability to actually prepare for a difficult conversation. And that doesn't need to be going against somebody or having a sort of an argument as such, because that's what we associate difficult conversation with, is actually being able to be honest about your desires, about your goals, about taking a risk. And one of the examples, for example, one of my guests said, well, I've had a conversation with my manager when I've decided I want to set up my own business. So she said, in about a year, she was up for a promotion and she said, don't promote me. I want to leave. In about a year time, I want to leave. I want to have my own business. Obviously, that was a bit of a shock to the manager, but that was a difficult conversation and it was risk taking that led her to setting up a business, helping the company to establish the work that she was doing, recruit correctly. Everyone was happy at the end of it. So having difficult conversations, absolutely key. Creating your own opportunities is one that shows up all the time. And my favorite quote by one of the guests is, don't outsource your career. And what they meant is too often you hear people say, well, what, my manager never offered that to me. Well, as much as a great manager will be looking out for you and, thinking of opportunities, have you asked? Have you identified what you want? Have you created a space to say, well, hang on a second, I would like to be in this room. I would like to do something. I think every single woman that I have spoken to who's created opportunities for themselves were the ones that sort of, one, phrase what they wanted, to put themselves out there free. They kind of kept on putting a hand up, even if they were not sure 100% where the hand up is going for. And I think the final one is kind of knowing who you are. And it's, again, what that relates to is knowing the value that you bring to the room and being okay that it changes. So it comes from two angles. One angle, which I absolutely loved, is very often people in the positions that are maybe not commercial roles as such, right, will say that they struggle to show the value that they bring to the business. And the argument that one of my guests had, and it was supported by quite a few, is knowing the value that you bring. So knowing your role in the organization and what value you bring to the bottom line is absolutely critical, because that way you can really showcase why you are there, why you are worth X amount, why you should be putting it on the project, etc. So really understanding the value that you bring, but also knowing who you are, as in what you're good at and what you may want to pass on to someone else. And that, especially the leaders that I've interviewed or have known in my career, but certainly interviewed, the ones who said, do you know what, I'm very good at X, Y, and Z, and I am not so good in the other 10 things, but this is why I have a team. Having a team that are much better than me, much more knowledgeable than me, is absolutely brilliant. I think being comfortable with who you are has been quite critical, and it's been quite eye-opening, to be honest with me, is making that peace. We constantly strive, especially with an ambitious, successful woman, you constantly feel like you have to keep on compensating and be someone else. And actually knowing who you are, owning who you are, is one of the most powerful tips that you can receive and things that you can do for your career.
Absolutely. No, I think they're great top three kind of tips and advice. I think the whole piece around personal accountability and you have to kind of make your own path is definitely something that lots of females need to embrace. So I remember in the past, I had an old boss and they said to me, we gave you an opportunity and you absolutely smashed it out the park, but the actual original opportunity was actually completely different to what I'd then kind of grown into. But I suppose that's sometimes backing yourself and having the right cheerleader behind you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as a manager, I think it's also very important that you recognize and you ask that question as well. So it still surprises me how many managers don't ask the question, what motivates you? What is it that, why are you here? What is it what would make you happy at this point in your career? But even if you get asked that and you don't know the answer, that becomes difficult. So I completely agree with you. Knowing what you want, having that cheerleader to support you. There is often talk about having a personal brand, personal board of directors. And I really love that. It's kind of knowing people who are around you, who are willing to share the knowledge, who are willing to cheer you on. I think is super important as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I still think there's a lot of people as well that don't actually ask what you're motivated by. They
No.
actually make an assumption linked to that as well.
And my argument is that that assumption comes from a good place most of the
Yeah.
time. So, and you know, perfect example. I love this story of one of the ladies who basically said she came back from maternity leave. She kind of went into a bit of a part-time role for a period of time, and then she went into a full-time. You know, she was doing really well. And the company once a year was doing this competition where you basically could enter, and if you won, you would be sent to a country for 6 months to gain experience there as a leader. She's entered that. And basically didn't win. She went really far and then she didn't get it. And she was kind of speaking to the manager and she was going, why didn't I like I was pretty much convinced I'm gonna get it. And he said, oh no, do you know what? You did win, but we thought, you know, you've just come back, you've just changed from paternity part-time into full-time. We just didn't think you would want to go to that country for 6 months at this stage. Now imagine how crashed she was because she wouldn't have entered if she didn't want to go somewhere for 6 months, you know, and I think the assumption was from a good place, but imagine if they asked her. Imagine if they said, are you sure it's 6 months? Like, are you comfortable with that? And she'll go, yes, it is. She'd have got it. Luckily, she did get it the following year, but imagine the impact it could have had if they just asked one question.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? It's where the whole communication lines break down. They
Absolutely. And it
actually.
happens way too many times. It still surprises me when I do sometimes workshops on like energizing career. And whenever I speak to managers and I go, when was the last time you genuinely ask your team member what motivates them right now? And they felt comfortable to tell you what it is. Because I think that's also a very important thing, right? Am I comfortable to tell you that what motivates me is that actually this job is very flexible and is not stretching me right now. This is what makes me happy. And being okay in hearing that.
And there's different stages, isn't there? Where
Exactly.
I feel like sometimes I'm always pulled, like sometimes I really, really, really want to go for it at work. And then other times my family need me more.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I mean as well about knowing yourself is knowing that at this, so especially women, I kind of say we go through seasons in our life.
Mhm.
And it's okay that one season you desire something and another season you desire something else. I think where problems arise is one, if you don't acknowledge and you are hard on yourself because this season feels different. I think that's one. You know, you're beating yourself up or you're putting yourself into spaces where you're really not, you don't desire to be there. But also two is assuming that somebody is still in a season that they were maybe 2 years ago. Again,
Yeah.
this goes back to making sure that you ask people what motivates them right now in that season of their life.
Yeah, really interesting. Same with difficult conversations, though, as well.
Yes.
Difficult conversations, it's like if you can get additional kind of mentor support that kind of gives you that extra guidance and advice, that can be really useful, can't it? And very supportive to putting your argument or your case even across.
Yes.
But sometimes you actually can't change the way other people will believe the narrative or whatever it is, that actually
Absolutely.
sometimes you kind of have to kind of vote with your feet, or have to come up with a new solution, don't you? And sometimes that may even leaving an opportunity.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm a huge advocate of you try, you put, you push. However, there is also a great indicator if things are not changing and you've tried everything, then you also know where you are, and that's okay too.
Yeah, very
So I,
true.
I completely agree.
And so, biggest lesson learned from your career, you obviously know the insurance sector very well. Tell us.
So my biggest lesson, and it's an advice that someone shared with me when I was starting as a broker. They said to me, you know, the logo behind you will change. Who shows up is what's going to open the doors. And what they meant by this is throughout your career, you do have this logo rotating behind you, right? And some of the logos of companies are so powerful that they probably give you a sort of a key straight away, but you are still the one that opens the door. But you know, certain logos do help. But it is, especially in the insurance industry, where a lot of people know everyone and you do end up working with one person, the other at some point. It's how you show up and the brand you kind of build yourself that is what's is going to open you the doors. And the amount of times I still, currently get clients, I've worked with them 7, 8 years ago, and they go, well, you did a great job there, so I can only assume 7, 8 years ago on, you're doing even better. Because that the brand that I've kind of portrayed back then still stays today.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, no, very true. It's you need that professionalism as well, don't you? Because actually, yeah, the market is a small place, as we call it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, very true, very true. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else that you want to say as parting moment?
No, thank you so much for having me. I think if anyone is interested, I encourage looking at the podcast. I think you will see a variety there. The main thing that I found, is the storytelling. Is if you feel like you're the only one, you feel like you haven't seen anyone like you're struggling with the current experience. I'm hoping we have a story where there's somebody else that they can show you how they navigated it, and as
Yeah.
well just make you feel like you're not alone and you're certainly visible here.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's really inspiring and yeah, no, very supportive. So thank you for joining us today, Sandra, and giving up some of your valuable time. And we look forward to welcoming you back in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.